especially its impact on all life forms, human, fauna, and flora. Mary?
Hi. Manning Ridge Road was my favorite part of my school bus ride home as a child. The beauty of the farmlands, meadows, and forests touched my soul. I rode the bus with families such as the Culvers and Littles, whose members still live here and whom I count as friends. These people and all who live nearby are impacted by the Casella-owned Hakes landfill. They are impacted by the stench, by the death of beauty, and by the corporate destruction of their rights to health and the pursuit of happiness. Too many cases of cancer. Casella is emblematic of the corporate paradigm of profit trumping people. Their power is upheld by the local government and state regulatory agencies, as exemplified by the recent rubber stamp approval of the Hakes landfill expansion, despite ample evidence of radon and radium from the material dumped here. How do we stop this kind of egregious stomping on the people's rights? We vote in new legislators. We vote for people who care for our rural communities and their people. It is my honor and privilege to introduce two such people who really care. Firstly, Leslie Danks Burke for State Senate, a woman who fights for folks like the kids I rode with on the school bus decades ago. Leslie is a lawyer, a parent, a daughter of farmers, and an advocate for better health care, education, and rural economic development. She is a tireless community volunteer for organizations from her local library foundation to her regional community college to the PTAs of every school her children have attended. She stands for getting all our children the bright future they deserve, with great schools and good jobs when they enter the workforce, hopefully a healthy workforce. As a parent and longtime advocate for one of the poorest regions of upstate New York, Leslie knows we're getting shortchanged by Albany and has spent years doing the hard work to stand up for our beautiful region by expanding access to health care and education and supporting local farms and businesses. Leslie is running for state senate because this district has had 40 years of neglect, and we aren't willing to settle anymore. Leslie's standing up for us to demand a real seat at the table for the Southern Tier and Finger Lakes. Thank you.
Hello, thank you all very much for being here on this beautiful day. Thank you very much, Mary Finneran, for that kind introduction, and especially Mary for your personal story and for the years that you have spent advocating for children and families here. I'm deeply grateful, Mary. 3 days ago, Governor Cuomo signed a law ending a special rule just for the oil and gas industry from having its waste classified as hazardous. I applaud Governor Cuomo for finally making the industry play by the same rule that everyone else does. This has been a long time coming, and Steuben County neighbors right here near us have suffered terribly as we've waited for it. Senator Tom O'Mara just weeks ago was the sole vote against this. Back in 2005, when now Senator Tom O'Mara was county attorney in Chemung County, his law firm's client, Casella Waste Systems, through its subsidiary, was granted a deal to lease the Chemung County landfill from the county. Over the years, the company has received permission to exponentially increase the volume of waste imported from Pennsylvania and to reroute county waste from other landfills here in order to be able to fit more of the carcinogenic waste in. As recently as last January, the county landfill here was expanded to accommodate even more waste by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. Meanwhile, Senator Tom O'Mara was elected assemblyman and then senator. In addition to his position as an elected representative of the people, Mr. O'Mara continues a side job practicing law at his firm, which has changed names several times and is now called Barclay Damon. a law and lobbying firm with a history of working for corporate polluters. From the days 20 years ago when his law firm's client was granted this sweet deal with Chemung County to now, when Mr. O'Mara votes on the legislative floor for bills that will help the exact same polluting companies his law firm works for, Mr. O'Mara has trampled on the health and safety of our children, our families, and our farmers. As a senator, since 2011, Mr. O'Mara has voted over and over to kill the bill that finally would ban companies from dumping fracking waste here. As a senator, Mr. O'Mara also voted against making the oil and gas industry classify their waste by the same rules that every other industry has to use, so that radioactive oil and gas waste would not be called hazardous. During the same 10 years, Mr. O'Mara has simultaneously held this side job at the law firm representing one of the companies impacted by his legislative votes, Casella Waste Systems. As chairman of the Environmental Conservation Committee, Mr. O'Mara shut down the public's access to subpoenas that, once they were finally disclosed to the public, showed that his lobbying firm's client was putting radioactive waste into New York waterways. Let me be clear. Mr. O'Mara's law firm's clients benefit directly from Mr. O'Mara's votes on the Senate floor, votes that put cancer-causing chemicals into his constituents' land. We here today are very glad that Governor Cuomo has finally rejected Mr. O'Mara's polluting politics. Even though Mr. O'Mara was still the lone vote against it mere weeks ago, Governor Cuomo has now signed a law stopping this special treatment for corporate polluters. But this law doesn't fix it all. It doesn't fix the decades of dumping in the landfill right behind us. It doesn't remove the radioactive waste that could leak out at any time. It doesn't end the cancer for our neighbors right next door to us here. And most of all, it does not end a system in New York that lets hired guns for corporate polluters also serve as elected representatives voting on the laws. We've been dumped on for too long here, and in too many ways. If our state senator insists on taking a paycheck from corporate polluters instead of protecting our health, then it's time we dump him from office permanently. Thank you.
Here.
Hi again. My mother, Tracy Finneran, who was buried in Painted Post, would have cheered to know that another Tracy is willing to fight for the people of the Southern Tier. Tracy Mazzano was born and raised in Rochester to an Italian and Irish family and learned early the meaning of hard work in her father's restaurant in downtown Rochester. She was the first member of her family to go to college because her parents wanted her to have choices in life that they did not have. In large part because of their sacrifice, Tracy went on to receive a PhD in American history from Binghamton University and a law degree from Cornell. Tracy spent 12 years as the Director of Information Technology Policy at Cornell University. In 2014, she opened an information management, security, and privacy consulting business. Tracy's policy-making experience will allow her to start working on day one to develop legislative solutions to the challenges facing the district and nation. With decades of experience in large institutions, she knows how to bring people together from different sides of an issue to make progress on complex subjects. She has spent her entire adult life enjoying the stunning natural beauty of the Finger Lakes regions. Cheers.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Mary, very much. Good afternoon. I am very glad to be here, and it's wonderful that your mom was named Tracy. It comes from Latin, has been used in Gaelic to mean courage. And courage is what we need to address the environmental issues that the people in Leslie's State Senate area and the people of the 23rd District that go from the suburbs of Binghamton all the way to Lake Erie face. And why are we facing these issues? largely because we have had corrupt politicians in office. How and in what way am I saying that they are corrupt? They have been bought by large corporations to vote in those corporations' interest and not in the interest of the people of this district who want to have good, clean land to enjoy and to pass on to their children. In the situation where we have a state senator with individual interest in the companies that he then fails to recuse himself and takes vote in the state Senate, I stand here with Leslie Danks Burke in support of her candidacy and in an effort to get a good politician in our state Senate who's going to represent the genuine interests of the people in her state district. And I stand here recognizing that we have 5 sites in the 23rd district that correspond to the issues that Leslie is here to talk about. That is sites where radioactive waste from hydrofracking is coming up from Pennsylvania into New York State. Seneca, Chemung, Steuben, Allegheny, and Cattaraugus counties are all affected similarly. And I am only talking about those that are purported to have the waste product from Pennsylvania. There are other dump sites. I'm focusing on this issue here today. And why is that? Because we have a state ban on hydrofracking for a reason. The reason is health of all biological life, including humans. It has a deeply adverse effect, this waste product, on the nervous system. That is why it was banned, and that is why it never should have been allowed to come up into our waste areas here in this district or any place in New York State. I am grateful we now have a law that would appear to end that practice, but it should never have happened in the first place, and we're here to talk about how to be sure we will go forward and get to a better place. It is time to get corrupt politicians who fail to recuse themselves, whether it's their representation of waste management in violation of the obvious intent of the ban in New York State to not allow those materials here, or a congressman who's voted more than 70 times against health care because his family business is debt medical collection. It's time to root out corrupt politicians at the state and federal level. And I stand here in support of Leslie and in support of all the people in the 23rd district. Let's get decency, honesty, and transparency back into office, and let's reassure the people of this district that we will preserve land for their wonderful and beautiful use and that of our children. I thank you for your time here today and happy to answer your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will take questions on topic first, and then we're happy to move to any questions that are off topic. But if there's questions from the media that are on topic, please let the media ask those first. Yes, thanks.
Hi. So can we talk about, first off, we are here right in front of the landfill, and why, first off, you made it so important to be here in front of the landfill to talk about these topics?
We're standing here in a beautiful sunny day, and it's hard sometimes to remember in the midst of all the beauty that we're surrounded by in the southern Tier and Finger Lakes, that underneath these very large mounds and hills lies waste that can cause cancer and can seriously injure and perhaps even kill our families and loved ones. It's important that we see exactly what it is we're talking about.
Okay, and so for anybody that might be watching live today or watching later, what is something that you would like them to take away from this today?
So we would like folks to take the idea away that we, the people, are allowed to have a voice in the decisions that happen around us. Our elected officials are accountable to us. And right now, Senator Tom O'Mara is working not for his constituents, but for the clients that pay him. And those clients are not residents here in the southern Tier and Finger Lakes. Those clients are corporations that are making a profit off of practices that are hurting our health. We, the people, are allowed to stand up and say, this is intolerable. We stand for elected representatives who represent us, their constituents.
I'll add these
Do you want me to come fix that? I can fix that so it stops falling.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll add just one piece to that. Leslie said it so beautifully. Often these landfills are in areas that are not obvious to people on 86 or even who want to go into Painted Post or Corning or Elmira or Lowman, Chemung. You have to go off the road to see what they are like. The one exception may be the landfill near me in Yates County up on routes 5 and 20. That is not one alleged to have the radioactive waste, so I'm not speaking about it, but it's the only one I can think of that's on a major thoroughfare. And the point is this: it is often around the land of the people who have the fewest resources to defend themselves, who would not have the ability to hire attorneys privately, to be sure that the groundwater around where they live, or the visual, or the stench. And for that, I invite you to go to the landfill on routes 5 and 20 in Ontario County and take your mask off and see if you can stand it. But the people who surround there are some of the poorest people we have in this district. And it's time that they had representation that represented their interest and not the interest of the large corporations that pay enormous sums of money either in private practice, in private business, or as benefactors to large campaign funds that allow them to stay in office instead of having the real interests of the people of this district represented in a way that is fair and appropriate and representative of the democracy that we all love and trust. Thank you.
A couple of things. First, why did it make good sense for the two of you to be here today to speak together?
The two of us have very similar ideas about getting corporate money out of politics. We're also running in the same geographic area, and it makes a lot of sense when we have a group of people who are willing to stand up together and fight against these interests that have been keeping us down for so long, that we raise our voices in unison together.
Tracy, did you want to say anything on it?
Well, I met Leslie originally when we were both trustees of the Tompkins County Public Library. I was honored to serve as a trustee there in the interests of the people of Tompkins County in education, and also to do so sitting next to Leslie Baines of Spurk. And I just concur. We have similar concerns about corrupt politicians who allow our lands and the other interests of the people of this district to be overrun by money. And it's as simple as that.
Okay, and the second thing, just logistically, did either of you or your teams have any communication with the Casella company about being here today and speaking?
We didn't. We're on public land here. However, a member of the Casella team has very graciously come out and offered his assistance in helping us find the best spot to stand. So that certainly has happened.
Okay, I was going to ask why there were representatives present. They were helping out?
I believe that they came out simply to see what was going on, and they've made themselves available to be helpful.
Okay.
And I will add, I am not attacking private business. I believe in private business, and I believe it should thrive. But we have government for a reason, to be sure that the interests of business do not overwhelm public interest. And my concern is with politicians that either fail to recuse themselves when they clearly have an individual interest in the vote that they're taking in the state Senate or in Congress, or they get so much money from corporations involved in waste management or healthcare or pharmaceuticals or name it, such that they are not voting in the interests of the people who need affordable healthcare, affordable pharmaceutical drugs, beautiful land, and the environment. My target is not private business. It is corrupt politicians. And that's what I'm here to speak about. Thank you.
The last thing I want to do is accidentally break this very expensive piece of equipment here, so I'll just keep on holding on to it unless anybody else has something that they'd like to add. Okay, I think we're good then. And thank you all very much for being here. Tracy and I are happy to chat with any of you separately if you'd like.
Great. Thank you so much.